Some of these feuds were so bad they involved blackmailing, smear campaigns, threats of FBI investigations, and abductions. These people were different. From newspapers to tabloids to social media, celebrities have always been at the forefront of American popular culture, and nothing makes us all tune in more than a good feud. If you think that celebrity messiness couldn't get any worse than it is nowadays, you are wrong. Here are the 12 nasty, notorious, classic Hollywood feuds that were so messy it almost destroyed Hollywood. Number 1 will totally shock you. Number 12. Debbie Reynolds versus Elizabeth Taylor. What you're looking at here is the beginning of a very scandalous love triangle between very close friends, who also used to double date with their husbands. In 1949, when Debbie was 17, she made her way to MGM, and Liz had already turned into a star with the company. They went to school together on the lot while Liz was in between filming, and while Debbie admits the two were nothing alike, they got along very well. By 1955, Debbie was married to singer Eddie Fisher, and by 1957, Liz was married to director Mike Todd. The two couples were like the it squad in Hollywood. It was like an old-school equivalent to Beyoncé, Jay-Z, Chris Martin, and Gwyneth Paltrow. Just 4 icons create a power squad and hang out together. In 1958, Elizabeth's husband, Mike, died tragically in a plane crash just a year after they married. According to Liz's website, Liz and Debbie were so close, and Liz was so distraught after the crash. Debbie tried to help Liz cope through the loss, even sending Eddie over to lend emotional support. That emotional support turned into a lot more than that, and then the press caught wind and the entire thing blew up. After divorcing Debbie, Eddie married Liz in 1959. While the tabloids painted a picture of a home wrecker and America's scorned sweetheart, according to Liz's website, behind closed doors, Eddie was failing as a husband, and though hurt and blindsided, Debbie was silently thanking Elizabeth for taking him off her hands as she knew it was over. 5 years later, Liz had her eyes set on her co-star Richard Burton on the set of Cleopatra and ended her marriage with Eddie. Debbie also moved on and found new love. Debbie and Elizabeth were finally able to reconcile in 1966. They both unexpectedly found themselves aboard the Queen Elizabeth, which was set to sail to Europe. According to Debbie, the two passed notes on the ship, finally met up to have dinner, and got smashed. The pair stayed friends after their reconciliation and even went on to make the film These Old Broads Together in 2001. Liz passed away in March 2011, while Debbie passed away in December 2016. Debbie said this about reconciling with Elizabeth. "You have to look at what life is all about. And is it worth it? And is he worth it?" The friendship was perhaps worth more. Number 11. Johnny Carson versus Joan Rivers. It's no secret that women in comedy have fought their male-dominated industry battles for eons. However, while things may have gotten better, when Joan Rivers was coming up, comedy was all older white men. While the older white men were using reused jokes and the infamous degrading of women as comedy, Joan thought she would just talk about her life. All men who had their breakthroughs way ahead of her. Back in the day, scouts were coming around to comedy shows looking for people to be on the Johnny Carson show. Over a period of 3 years, Joan was rejected from the show 7 times. It was actually Bill Cosby who persuaded the show producer to use Joan in the show as a comedian. Well, they brought her on the show as a writer. In 1965, Johnny did tell Joan live on air that she was going to be a star. She adored him, and throughout the 1970s, she did a lot of work for his show. While all of the men were leaving Johnny Carson, Joan stayed for 18 years, and then they finally offered her her own late-night show. Naturally, the first person she wanted to call and tell was Johnny, who promptly hung up on her and never spoke to her again, and then tried to deny the whole thing ever happened. He died in 2005. Joan had this to say about it. "He was not angry at anybody else. I think he really felt because I was a woman that I just was his, that I wouldn't leave him. I know this sounds very warped, but I don't understand otherwise what was going on. He didn't like that as a woman. I went up against him." Number 10. Jerry Lewis versus Dean Martin. This comedy duo first started performing together on July 25, 1946. After a scheduled singer dropped out of the lineup at a show at the 500 Club in Atlantic City, Jerry convinced the owner to hire Dean, giving us their first performance together. The performance was a hit and became the foundation for their decade-long comedy act. In 1995, Jerry would go on to tell people, "I don't think we would have ever been heard of without the other." The pair quickly signed a movie deal and would end up making 16 movies together over a 10-year period. Although the pair were wildly successful, things weren't perfect between Jerry and Dean. Dean started to feel like Jerry was controlling their work lives far too much. When Dean started talking about starting up his solo act again, Jerry felt totally betrayed, and not too long after, they stopped speaking altogether. On July 25, 1956, exactly 10 years after the duo's formation, they performed their final show at the Copacabana. Dean went on to become a member of Frank Sinatra's Rat Pack, and Jerry went on to do movies like The Nutty Professor. In 1976, during Jerry's annual telethon fundraiser for muscular dystrophy, Frank Sinatra facilitated the gag of all gags. After performing his set, he presented Jerry with a couple of donations. Then he proceeded with, "I have a friend who loves what you do every year and who just wanted to come out. Could you send my friend out, please?" And to everyone's disbelief, for the first time in 20 years, it was none other than Dean. The two hugged, and Dean so cutely kissed Jerry and Frank on the cheek. They received an over 1 minute long standing ovation. As time went on, Jerry told People in 1983, "Our lifestyles and careers are separate and apart. But if you told me he was outside right now, it would be a joy to jump on his neck." In 1987, after Dean's son was killed in a plane crash, Jerry attended the funeral, and the pair officially made up. They continued to speak on and off until Dean passed away in 1995. Number 9. Olivia de Havilland versus Joan Fontaine. Olivia de Havilland and Joan Fontaine are sisters who were born only 15 months apart. Olivia is the eldest. Their feud basically started at birth. They shared a room when they were younger, and according to Joan's 1978 memoir, she remembers the animus we'd felt toward each other as children, the hair pullings, the savage wrestling matches, the time Olivia fractured my collarbone. Yeah, the two were no strangers to coming to blows and physically harming or plotting to physically harm each other. When Olivia became a working actress first by being cast in a screen adaptation of A Midsummer Night's Dream at 18, Joan reportedly lobbied her sister to help her become an actor as well. Well, being who they are, Olivia only agreed to help her if she changed her last name so people wouldn't confuse the two. So, Joan took her stepfather's last name and became Joan Fontaine. In 1942, the sisters were both nominated for Best Actress at the Oscars. The two were both seated at the same table when Joan won the award for Suspicion. Joan said, "I felt Olivia would spring across the table and grab me by the hair. I felt like age 4, being confronted by my older sister. Damn it, I'd incurred her wrath again." In 1975, when their mother was diagnosed with terminal cancer, Olivia was reportedly by her side until the end, while Joan was on tour for a play and claimed that no one even notified her that her mother was dying, nor was she invited to the funeral. When Joan inevitably showed up to the service, the sisters did not talk. In a 1978 interview, Joan had this to say about her sister. "Olivia has always said I was first at everything. I got married first, got an Academy Award first, had a child first. If I die first, she'll be furious, because again, I'll have got there first." Joan passed away in 2013 at the age of 96. In 2016, Olivia revealed to USA Today that she still referred to her sister as Dragon Lady, and then proceeded to deny that there was a feud per se between the two. Olivia passed away in 2020 at 104 years old. Number 8. Orson Welles versus William Randolph Hearst. Film director, writer, actor, and producer, Orson Welles and founder of Hearst Communications, Esquire, Cosmopolitan, San Francisco Chronicle, William Randolph Hearst, feuded back in the 40s to the point of blackmail. In 1941, Orson Welles produced, directed, and starred in the movie Citizen Kane, a movie about a media mogul born rich who went on to create a massive newspaper empire. It was a classic story about how corruptive too much power can be. Oh, did I forget to mention it was basically a movie where the main character was just an interpretation of Hearst? Orson was only 24 when he fired those major shots at someone who was basically Logan Roy of their time. When Hedda Hopper, the leading lady in gossip back in the day, attended the preview screening for Citizen Kane, she was livid. She called the movie a vicious and irresponsible attack on a great man. When Hearst got wind, it was really game on. Hollywood executives rallied behind Hearst and attempted to buy the movie from Orson just to burn the negatives and protect Williams' reputation. They even went as far as blackmailing, smear campaigns, and FBI investigations for anyone who dared to show the movie. Williams' smear campaign on Orson was horrible. He had all of Hollywood literally stuck between a rock and a hard place. He threatened to expose long-buried Hollywood scandals that were only kept quiet at the request of studios. He used Orson's private life against him. He basically told everyone Orson was a communist and unwilling to fight for his country, and he also had major theaters refusing to play Citizen Kane. At the 1942 Oscars, when Orson and the film were mentioned at the awards, he was booed. The movie was nominated for 9 Academy Awards and only won Best Original Screenplay, which was just as much writer Herman Mankiewicz's award as it was Orson's. After the horrible display at the Academy Awards, RKO silently retired Citizen Kane into their vault. The movie wasn't revived until almost 25 years later. Number 7. B. Arthur versus Betty White. It's devastating to believe that these two women who played on-screen best friends actually did not get along in real life. Their lack of compatibility was very evident in how they approached their work. B came from a sitcom background that involved filming shows like stage plays and using up-close reactions. Betty came from a background where she learned that the best approach was to be less in your face. In an exclusive interview with Closer, B's son even recalled his mother during filming. "It would make my mom unhappy that in between takes Betty would go and talk to the audience. It wasn't jealousy. It was a focus thing." He even went on to explain, "My mom unknowingly carried the attitude that it was fun to have somebody to be angry at. It was almost like Betty became her nemesis, someone she could always roll her eyes about at work." However, things weren't always like this. In an archived interview with the Academy of Television Arts and Sciences, their Golden Girls co-star Rue McClanahan spoke on her relationship with B. "B and I didn't have a lot of relationships going on. B is a very, very eccentric woman. She wouldn't go to lunch with me unless Betty White would go with her. Trying to figure out what went wrong, it was widely suspected, even by Rue McClanahan, that it was Betty's Best Actress Emmy win in 1986. She was the first to win and be nominated of the group that caused the riff. B's son even mentioned, "My mom was the real deal. I think she felt she was more of an actress than Betty. Mom came from Broadway. Betty starred on a game show at one point." Number 6. Vivian Vance versus William Frawley. This pair spent 6 seasons playing husband and wife Fred and Ethel Mertz on the beloved series I Love Lucy. Wildly enough, William was 64 when they began filming the show, and Vivian was only 42. William had already spent 40 years building up his career before he landed his role on the hit show, and he was the oldest in the cast by far. The whole conflict with Vivian began at the first table read for the show. As they were all preparing for the read, Vivian said to Lucille loud enough for William to hear, "You can't be serious. I'm married to that old coot?" Even though it was that one instance that possibly sparked their hatred for each other, according to Audrey Kupferberg, who co-wrote Meet the Mertzes. The life stories of I Love Lucy's other couple, she detailed William in an exclusive with Page 6 as a mean, rough man, continuing, "He was a woman hater, known throughout Hollywood for very bad language and just antisocial behavior." She also detailed his alleged heavy drinking on the My Three Sons set, claiming he drank all day. In the same Page 6 interview, one of William's co-stars from My Three Sons, Tim Considine, even recalled that during the filming of the show, William was asked about what it was like to work with Vivian. and even years later he still allegedly referred to her as a miserable saint. William died in 1966 after suffering a heart attack, and Vivian died in 1979 after losing her battle with breast cancer. Number 5. Marlon Brando versus Frank Sinatra. In 1954, Marlon Brando starred in the movie On the Waterfront in the lead role of Terry, much to the dismay of old Blue Eyes. Marlon had beaten Frank out for the part, and that was the catalyst for what would be the start of a feud between two of old Hollywood's greatest. In 1955, the pair would go on to star alongside each other in Guys and Dolls, and yeah, Marlon got the starring role in the musical, and Frank was the second lead. James Kaplan, the author of Sinatra, the chairman, stated, "It was really one-sided, with Frank detesting the ground that Brando walked on." Of course, Marlon had no disdain for Frank, but he quickly grew too. To add fuel to the fire, Marlon ended up winning the Academy Award for Best Actor in On the Waterfront right before the Guys and Dolls filming began. On the set of Guys and Dolls, Frank started referring to Marlon as Mumbles, and as the berating continued, Marlon caught on and started his own jokes. During a scene where Frank has to eat cake, Marlon would intentionally blow his lines to force Sinatra to eat cake over and over again. The hostility was reaching new heights, and the pair refused to talk. They would only communicate through other people. Things really escalated when Frank's wife, Ava Gardner, who he was separated from, was spending time in Marlon's dressing room when Frank wasn't around. It's believed this is what directly led to Marlon's abduction. He was riding around on his motorcycle and had stopped at a rest stop when a car with 3 goons showed up and pulled a gun on him, forcing him into an unknown vehicle. Marlon's close friend Carlo Fiore's account was detailed in the book Brando Unzipped by Darwin Porter. Marlon told me, "One of the goons told me he was going to offer me a choice. He could kill me, a quick and easy death with a bullet in the heart, or else he'd let me live. If he let me live, he'd castrate me and carve up my face so that no plastic surgeon could ever repair it." Marlon told me he had never been so frightened in all his life. Brando was eventually dumped in the Hollywood Hills, and he was able to flag down a car for help. Although there wasn't any hard evidence, Carlo firmly believed it was Frank. "I'm sure Sinatra was behind this whole thing. He threatened and intimidated other people in his life, or so I heard. Why not Marlon, his archenemy number 1? After the abduction, Marlon kept his distance from Frank and even hired a bodyguard for his own personal protection. And finally, here's a true rivalry that went on for decades. It was so bad that it literally didn't end until both women had passed. It was so iconic that Ryan Murphy even told their story in the first season of his anthology series, Feud. It's a 40-year rivalry. Number 4. Joan Crawford versus Bette Davis. Oh, settle in, because this one is a lot. Let's start with some quick background. Joan made her first appearance on screen in 1925, and Bette didn't even move to Hollywood until 1930. In 1933, Bette was finally set to have her name featured above the title in the Warner Brothers movie Ex-Lady. The studio had already planned a massive promotional campaign for the movie, which included an announcement of Bette's new phase of her career. Well, that same day, Joan announced she was divorcing her first husband, and newspapers quickly pushed Bette's announcement to a small box in the corner of the page, while Joan's divorce was a multi-page spread in a plethora of newspapers. After only a week of premiering, Bette's movie was dropped from theaters for low ratings. Thought it couldn't get any worse? Well, let's continue. In 1935, Bette starred in a drama called Dangerous and fell in love with her co-star, Franchot Tone. Yeah, you could probably guess that Joan got to him first. She ended up marrying him during the filming of Dangerous, which devastated Bette. In a 1987 interview with Michael Thornton, more than 50 years after the incident, Bette told him, "I have never forgiven her for that, and never will." In Joan's personal biography titled Not the Girl Next Door, Joan Crawford, a personal biography, she had this to say about Bette's crush. "Franchot thought Bette was a good actress, but he never thought of her as a woman. These women went at it for the rest of their lives." In 1943, it's reported that Joan attempted to reconcile by sending Bette gifts and flowers, which fell flat. Then, In 1945, Joan won her first and only Oscar for a role Bet turned down. In 1946, Joan received another Oscar nomination for a role Bet turned down. According to Joan's friend Jerry Asher, in 1950, Bet had suspicions that Joan, who, according to her daughter Christina, was likely bisexual, had taken an interest in her, which is why she was probably so antagonistic. He mentioned that Joan used to make jokes like, "Franchot isn't interested in Bet, but I wouldn't mind giving her a poke if I was in the right mood." However, he never knew if she was truly just joking or not. Somehow, after a previous movie starring the two was scrapped when Bet walked out on it, they finally made it work when Joan convinced Bet to do Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. The beef, of course, continued on set and brought this whole thing to a head. During the filming, there's a scene where Betty's character beats Joan's. Rightfully so, Joan was not down with that and requested a body double, which couldn't be used in close-up shots. So when Betty's time came, she kicked Jane very, very hard in the head, to the point where it's reported that she needed stitches. Betty said she barely touched her. Hollywood definitely helped add fuel to the fire by giving Bet the Best Actress Oscar nomination for the movie and paying Joan complete dust. Iconically, though, if anyone won and wasn't present to accept their award, Joan made sure she could be the one to do it. Well, when Best Actress was read and it went to Anne Bancroft, Joan was the one to go on stage and accept it. She even ended up in the official pictures with all of the other winners. To bring this very long story around, in 1964, Joan walked out on a movie the two were supposed to do together after their last success. In May 1977, Joan died, and Bet died in October 1989. While they spent their lives feuding, Bet did come to Joan's defense when Joan's adoptive daughter wrote a memoir slandering her mother after she had already died. Wildly enough, the two had far more in common than they thought, because after Bet's death, her daughter went on to do the same thing. Number 3. Katharine Hepburn versus Spencer Tracy. The classic tale of Hollywood's golden couple that wasn't so golden behind the scenes. Katharine Hepburn and Spencer Tracy starred together in 9 films, delivering unforgettable performances and undeniable on-screen chemistry. To the public, they were the epitome of a perfect match, but beneath the surface, their relationship was anything but smooth sailing. Katharine, known for her fierce independence and strong-willed nature, often clashed with Spencer's more reserved and private demeanor. Their off-screen interactions were marked by disagreements over everything from film choices to personal boundaries. Katharine was never one to back down, often voicing her dissatisfaction with scripts or production decisions, while Spencer preferred to maintain harmony, leading to bottled-up frustrations. Their professional relationship was a delicate balance. While their combined talents brought cinematic magic to life, their differing personalities sometimes caused tension on set. Katharine's relentless pursuit of perfection could frustrate Spencer, who valued a more laid-back approach to acting. Despite these challenges, they managed to create some of the most iconic films in Hollywood history, proving that even the most mismatched pairs can produce stellar results. Tragically, Spencer's early death in 1967 brought an end to their partnership, leaving Katharine to reflect on a relationship that was as complex as it was influential. In interviews, Katharine acknowledged the difficulties they faced, but also expressed deep gratitude for Spencer's support and companionship. Their story remains a testament to the idea that love and professional respect can coexist, even amidst personal turmoil. Number 2. Clark Gable versus Carole Lombard. Clark Gable and Carole Lombard were Hollywood's quintessential power couple, both beloved by fans and respected by peers. Their relationship, however, was far from idyllic and was rife with misunderstandings and external pressures that ultimately contributed to its tragic end. Clark, the dashing king of Hollywood, was notorious for his charm and playboy lifestyle, often juggling multiple relationships despite his marriage to Carole. Carole, known for her vivacious spirit and dedication to her craft, struggled with the constant rumors and the lack of privacy that came with being married to a Hollywood icon. Their differing approaches to fame created underlying tensions, with Carol seeking stability and Clark enjoying the spotlight. The couple's stress was exacerbated by personal tragedies and the demands of their careers. Carol faced numerous health issues, including a battle with alcoholism, which strained their relationship further. Clark's infidelities and the relentless paparazzi attention only added fuel to the fire, making it difficult for them to maintain a harmonious marriage. Their love story took a heartbreaking turn when Carol Lombard tragically died in a plane crash in 1942, shortly after Clark enlisted in the Army Air Forces during World War II. Her untimely death not only devastated Clark, but also left a void in Hollywood that was deeply felt by fans and fellow actors alike. The legacy of their tumultuous yet passionate relationship continues to intrigue and inspire, serving as a poignant reminder of the complexities of love in the limelight. Number 1. Lauren Bacall versus Humphrey Bogart. Lauren Bacall and Humphrey Bogart are often remembered as one of Hollywood's most glamorous and enduring couples. Their on-screen chemistry was palpable, but their off-screen relationship was a roller coaster of emotions, marked by love, jealousy, and mutual respect. Lauren, a fresh-faced actress when she met Humphrey on the set of To Have and Have Not, 1944, was immediately captivated by his charisma and enigmatic presence. Humphrey, a seasoned star with a reputation as a tough, no-nonsense actor, found himself drawn to Lauren's intelligence and vivacity. Their whirlwind romance was swift, leading to marriage just a year after meeting. Despite their deep love for each other, the couple faced significant challenges. Humphrey's tumultuous relationship with his ex-wife, Mayo Method, caused considerable strain. Mayo's frequent outbursts and erratic behavior made life difficult for both Humphrey and Lauren, often putting their relationship to the test. Lauren's commitment to supporting Humphrey through his struggles showcased her strength and dedication, but it wasn't always easy. Their professional lives were equally demanding. Balancing careers while raising 2 children required constant negotiation and compromise. However, their mutual respect and shared experiences in the film industry helped them navigate the ups and downs of Hollywood life. Lauren often spoke about how Humphrey's love and support were instrumental in her successful career, while Humphrey admired Lauren's resilience and grace. Humphrey Bogart's untimely death in 1957 left Lauren devastated, but also more determined to honor his memory by continuing to thrive both personally and professionally. Their love story remains one of the most iconic romances in Hollywood history, illustrating that even amidst chaos and challenges, true love can endure and inspire. While old Hollywood set the stage for legendary rivalries, modern actors aren't exempt from intense and often nasty conflicts. In today's age of social media and 24/7 news coverage, feuds can escalate rapidly and reach a global audience. Here are 5 of the most notorious contemporary Hollywood feuds that rival those of yesteryear. Taylor Swift versus Kanye West versus Kim Kardashian. The saga began in 2009 when Kanye West interrupted Taylor Swift's acceptance speech at the MTV Video Music Awards. The tension reignited in 2016 with Kanye's song Famous, where he claimed he made Taylor famous. Taylor vehemently denied approving the lyrics, while Kim Kardashian released snippets of a phone call purportedly showing Taylor's consent. This public back and forth on social media and in the press deepened the rift, turning a personal disagreement into a media frenzy that continues to capture public attention. Scarlett Johansson versus Jennifer Lawrence. While both acclaimed actresses have shared the screen, tensions have simmered beneath the surface. The feud reportedly intensified during the filming of American Hustle, where creative differences and on-set disagreements created friction. Additionally, both actresses have been vocal about their differing views on the entertainment industry, leading to public comparisons and subtle jabs in interviews. Although neither has openly declared animosity, the competitive nature of Hollywood has kept their relationship strained and closely watched by fans. Jennifer Aniston versus Jennifer Lopez. The rivalry between Friends star Jennifer Aniston and pop icon Jennifer Lopez has been a topic of speculation for years. Sparks flew publicly when both attended similar events and released competing projects around the same time. Tabloids fueled the fire by highlighting their differences in career choices and personal lives. Although both Jennifers have maintained cordial interactions in recent years, the early years of their careers were marked by subtle competition and media-fueled narratives of jealousy and rivalry. Gwyneth Paltrow versus Kristen Bell. Behind the scenes of The Good Wife and other projects, Gwyneth Paltrow and Kristen Bell reportedly had a strained relationship. Bell has hinted at tensions in interviews, suggesting disagreements over creative directions and on-set dynamics. Paltrow, known for her assertive personality and business ventures, may have clashed with Bell's collaborative approach. While both actresses continue to thrive in their careers, the lack of public camaraderie has led fans to speculate about unresolved conflicts and professional disagreements. Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard. One of the most high-profile and contentious feuds in recent years involves Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. Their tumultuous relationship became public through a series of legal battles, accusations of abuse, and defamation lawsuits. Both parties presented conflicting narratives, leading to a highly publicized court saga that captivated global audiences. The feud not only affected their personal lives, but also had significant repercussions on their careers and public images, highlighting the intense and often damaging nature of modern celebrity conflicts.